So with the game, it was that first drive, the Ravens went out and they played Raven football. And Lamar Jackson played the way Lamar Jackson is capable of playing. And they went down the field. They drove, I think, 80 plus yards, 10 or 12 plays, and punched the Colts in the mouth. And Lamar was 5 for 5 on that drive. He had 26 yards rushing, 4 carries, I think, for 26 yards and a touchdown. And that is the way that Ravens football and the Ravens offense should look. Now, I'll say this. You're taking baby steps right now. And that's okay, because this offense, you got to think, a lot of these starters didn't play in the none of the starters really played in the preseason at all. So when you're getting accustomed to a new offense, a new system, and I talk about this in everyday life, when you get thrust into a new system in your job, in anything, it's going to take some time to getting used to. I mean, for me, when I was working at, I'm still working at WBFF, Fox 45, when we had to learn new systems, I wasn't used to iNews, which is the way we produce our shows, or Avid, the way we edit our shows. But after 2-3 weeks, I got it down. It took me almost a month, and it took some learning. With the Ravens offense, I'm not comparing myself to a professional football player, but I think people can compare in everyday life to what the Ravens are doing right now. It's going to take some time to getting used to. And then when you add on the injuries, week after week after week, and that injury list, it looks like a CVS receipt right now. It really does. And I've said that before, but it's starting to get long, and there's not really anything the Ravens can do about that. These are injuries that are happening in games, and it's just very unfortunate. But it's going to take some time to getting used to and accustomed to. And I think when the Ravens finally get it down, it is going to really just, I don't know, like the way Lamar plays football, it is going to really complement his game and the way he plays, because 2 rushing touchdowns. I know he didn't have any passing touchdowns this past week, but he looked really good on the ground with those design run plays, it looked like. So,
well, you bringing up design runs, actually, Ryan Clark then came out and thought, and we have a video here that Brad's going to tee up with. Ryan Clark doesn't think there's that much of a difference between the Greg Roman offense and Todd Monken so far. So we want you guys to listen here to see what we're talking about, and then we're going to address again.
How do you find an innovative way to help Lamar Jackson increase who he is as a passer, to help the Baltimore Ravens be able to threaten the deep part of the field, Stephen A? And they aren't doing that at all. Now, what was it supposed to be? It was supposed to be because now you have Zay Flowers, because now you have Odell Beckham Jr., you have a healthy Rashad Bateman, and they were supposed to be able to win one-on-ones. Well, everybody knows in order to win the one-on-ones, you got to create those for your player. You got to put the people in the right position. They were supposed to spread it out. They were supposed to give you all this space so Lamar Jackson could operate. You know what I saw in the red zone yesterday? I saw 2 called quarterback runs for Lamar Jackson. And guess what they were? They were extremely successful. You know what else I've seen since 2019, Stephen A. and Shannon Sharp in the red zone? I've seen called runs for Lamar Jackson that were extremely successful. We aren't seeing anything different. And I actually think whatever the simple changes are that they're trying to make to the passing game is holding this offense back. It's putting this offense in a place where now Lamar Jackson is thinking, where now the receivers' route combinations aren't as crisp. They need to simplify it. And I don't want people to take this wrong, like Lamar can't handle it. There seems like there's too much going on. Like we're trying to take too big of a step instead of finding out what does this group of individuals do well, and let's do that. There is no consistency to who the Baltimore Ravens were, and at least with Greg Roman, though it was elementary, though we hated the passing game, they were consistent. And they had something they were good at, and they did it over and over again. I don't know who this Ravens team is, and they don't have an offensive identity yet, and that's the thing that scares me more than anything.
Right there, we heard it, and we're going to dive into this in a second.
Yeah.
And so what Brad, we've talked about even before the show, I mean, look, people are going to be quick to criticize after 3 games, and you can talk about it. I know you probably saw a lot of injuries went down for the Ravens. We talked about injuries before. Rashad Bateman got hurt. No Gus Edwards, or Gus Edwards concussion knocked out of the game.
Yeah.
You're down to then Melvin Gordon being your main
Hill.
guy. No Justice Hill. Yeah. No Odell Beckham Jr. It's on a wet, rainy day. And I think that the Ravens deserve a little bit of a, hey, different circumstances, really wet game. And I don't think that that's been really discussed. I understand it's money. By the way, that was on First Take on ESPN for those that were wondering. But so, Rock, I mean, you were there. You saw the conditions. They weren't by any means pleasant or easy to play in.
They weren't ideal. And I'm not one to make excuses for the Ravens or sit here and sugarcoat anything. But I'll say this. Ball security has been an issue the first 3 weeks for Lamar Jackson. And I think he knows that. And I think he's going to try to get better and be more conscious of that as the weeks go on. I'm not going to sit here and bash him and say, oh, yeah, Lamar stinks at holding on to the ball, because I just don't feel like that's the case. I've seen him run in the open field and make big plays with his legs when the ball is just like out like this. And he is crazy at the things he can do. Lamar is one of the most dynamic and versatile players in the NFL. So, but ball security has been an issue. He's fumbled in each of the 3 games, but he didn't technically fumble in the Bengals game because that was negated by a penalty, but he did cough up the ball. So 3 games will say that he has fumbled, whether he's gotten credited for a fumble or not. And he fumbled multiple times in this game. I'll say this about the Ravens, though. So Lamar needs to do a better job of holding onto the ball, plain and simple. And I feel like he knows that. And that's something that he's going to carry with him as the season goes on. He's going to try to, but he even kind of fired back at someone on Twitter. He was like, not fired back, but he's like, I was getting hit as I threw on the one. The other one, that's different. That's on him. It is what it is. But for this offense, being down Odell Beckham Jr., who you're paying $15 million, $18 million, or $15 million guaranteed, $18 million potentially with incentives. You're down J.K. Dobbins. You are down 2 offensive linemen in Tyler Linderbaum and Ronnie Stanley. And John Harbaugh doesn't want to make excuses, and he said he doesn't want to make excuses, but it is what it is right now. And the fact of the matter is the Ravens are dealing with injuries. They're dealing with a lot of injuries. It's something that you can't control, but it's unfortunate that this team isn't healthy right now and can't stay healthy, because when you have Ronnie Stanley, a former all-pro left tackle, when you have Tyler Linderbaum, who's expected to be a absolute beast in his second season, he was great his rookie year. That's tough on your offensive line. So I think that Lamar, if they can draw up a game plan, much like the one in Cincinnati in week 2, where Lamar looked very comfortable in the pocket, he looked great throwing the ball. That deep pass to Zay Flowers, while Zay Flowers made a great play in double coverage, I believe, that was an absolute dime from the starting quarterback, former unanimous MVP. I think the Ravens can be successful. We're 3 weeks into a new offense for the Baltimore Ravens. It's going to take some time to getting used to. Now, if we're week 10 and they're struggling, fine. 3 weeks in. Let's give it to like week 5, 6, 7 to kind of judge how this Ravens offense is going to look going forward, because I'm not sold on what Ryan Clark said. I think he does a great job. I think he does phenomenal breaking down plays, and especially with the Baltimore Ravens. But let's pump the brakes a little bit going forward. Let Lamar, let Todd Monken, let John Harbaugh, and let the rest of the offense kind of do their thing as we go forward. It was a tough loss, though. I get why fans have kind of a sour taste in their mouth right now.
Yeah, I mean, and to tee this up for you, Brad, you talked about this when we did our game picks last week. I mean, the Colts, sneaky. We weren't sure what they're going to be. I mean, they haven't given up more than 21 points this season.
Right.
So in my mind, you're right. For all the points that we just brought up here, it's early. You don't know what's going on. Also, for me, I'm looking at it, I would love to see some more deep shots, right? Of course, we want to see that.
Yeah,
we want to see that, right?
Yep.
But
sure.
I think what was more in this case was your circumstances. The Colts have played the Ravens tough over the last few years. And also when you have pieces down, that's going to make it a little bit more challenging, but you can't discredit the Ravens just went on the road, beat the Bengals where Lamar was very efficient, throwing the football, made the right reads, made the beautiful throw to Zay Flowers, made that incredible throw to Nelson Aguilar in the end zone as well.
Oh, yeah.
Can't discredit that. I think that's a big reason why they came out of Cincy with the victory. So just wanted to point that out. Brad, do you have any other closing remarks? I know you looking at this was something that was on your mind when Ryan Clark spoke.
Yeah. So here's what I'll say, looking at what I feel is happening is that Ryan Clark is talking about this last game, and maybe he's not, but we go back and look at the Bengals game, for example. I mean, the amount of receivers that Lamar spread the ball around to is pretty incredible. Last year, we saw some of Rashad Bateman when he was healthy and Mark Andrews. And then it was, Hollywood Brown and Mark Andrews. Now he's spreading the ball around. And the game against the Bengals, we saw Nelson Aguilar with 5 receptions. He actually led the game in receptions and yards with 63 yards, averaging 12.6 yards per catch. Zay Flowers had 4 with 62 yards. Mark Andrews was Mark Andrews with 45 yards and a touchdown. But like, my point is that some of the plays that we saw during that Bengals game, I think is going to be more reflective of what we're going to see moving forward. But when we get to the end of the season, we're going to be like, yep, that Bengals game is what the offense truly is. And once they get fully gelled, I think it just comes down to chemistry. And you got to remember, Lamar now has so many new pieces to this offense that have, as soon as he gets used to them, they get taken away, right? And he has a new offensive coordinator. So I think, to Rocco's point, I think it's still going to take some time. We're in week 3. This almost feels like it's the 3rd preseason game. We talked about this in the beginning of the season, that Lamar didn't take 1 snap during preseason. So still just getting used to things in a real-time game situation. Yeah, it sucks. It sucks that it came down to some pretty bad calls on the refs as well. But hey, if the Ravens hadn't put themselves in that situation, we wouldn't be having this conversation either.
And, I want to touch on real quickly, because Rock and I, all of us, we talked about this. I mean, I think it's fair to say, no matter what's happening, guess who's involved in this offense? Zay Flowers.
Yep.
Zay Flowers now has 2 games over 8 catches. And Rock, you got to see him in person again, and it looks like that's staying the same. Everything we saw in Ravens training camp is coming true. And I think we haven't seen that full evolution of what he could be, but clearly he has become the guy.
Yeah, he has. He led the team again in receptions, 8 catches for 48 yards. And those aren't eye-popping numbers if you're looking at it. But for Zay Flowers being a rookie, as heavily involved as he is in this offense, that is big for a rookie and for a guy that was the Ravens' first-round picks, because they've struggled to draft wide receivers in the past. Rashad Bateman, he's on the team right now. He was a first-rounder, and right now he's dealing with a hamstring injury. But Rashad Bateman healthy. I think Rashad Bateman could be a huge part of the offense. But right now, because everyone thought Rashad Bateman was going to be the guy this season, I still think he can help this offense in so many ways and be huge for the Ravens going forward. But I think right now in the offense, wide receiver-wise, Zay Flowers is the guy, not Odell Beckham Jr., not Rashad Bateman, not Nelson Aguilar. I think it's Zay Flowers, because Lamar is going to rely on a shifty guy that can pick up yards after the catch like Zay Flowers can, and that's what we're seeing right now. But when Bateman comes back, I don't know if he's going to miss the next game with a hamstring injury. Is tough, but he's dealing with a hamstring issue. That was the deal in Sunday's game. So Bateman comes back healthy. I think he can continue to contribute. He hasn't really done much through 3 games, but I think once Rashad Bateman gets into a rhythm, this is a guy that missed the last several games of the season last year. It could be Rashad Bateman's world as well. But Zay Flowers, I mean, this is going to be the guy all season long. I'm telling you what we saw in training camp, what we saw in OTAs, what we saw in preseason, Zay Flowers is the guy's Ravens fans. You got a good one.
Rocco,
Zay.
What's the latest on OBJ? When are we going to see him back on the field?
So I'm not sure. With OBJ, he was dealing with an ankle issue, and the Ravens are very just tight to their chest, like very tight knit about how they, I don't know if that's the right word to say, but
close
about, close to the vest, tight to the chest, close to the vest. That's what I wanted to say.
Was it a chest day for you today? Was that why you're talking about it?
It was actually chest and arms day. Yeah.
There you go.
Sure.
Did you just size me up?
Yeah, a little bit.
Yeah. Thanks.
Okay. Continue
I
on.
want you to do some push-ups there, guy.
Wow.
Oh.
Shots fired. Back to OBJ. Thank you.
OBJ, you don't, with an ankle injury, you really don't know like when the guy's going to, you hope it's next week. You hope it's maybe if he misses next game, he comes back the week after against this, because it goes Browns on the road, Steelers on the road, and then you go to London. So you're hoping he's back before that. But I really don't know right now. Truly, I would say, as John Harbaugh says, refer to the injury report on that one.
Speaking like a true coach. Well, you know what? Hey, what we're finding out in the NFL is that it's crazy. It's wild. We don't know what to expect.